watching Fox Local.
We begin this morning with a Fox 10 News alert here. Evacuations are being ordered for residents in the Pinal County area because of the flood fire. We have some information for you here on your screen. Those who live in the Panther Butte area are currently on go status. The fire is burning near Oracle Junction. Some of those overnight high winds that we've been seeing in this part of the state have now increased some of that fire activity, leading to the evacuation order. So we're working to get some more details for you this morning. We've made some calls here in the newsroom to see what some of those investigators there on the ground and fire crews are seeing and how they're expecting this fire to burn throughout the day.
Also happening this morning, a police investigation is underway in Glendale. This is near 59th Avenue and Choya Street. We have reached out to police to gather more information for you. But what we do know right now that this was called out originally as a shooting call. As soon as new details come into the newsroom, we of course will pass them along to you.
Turning now to our big story developing there in the southeast, Hurricane Milton making landfall in Florida.
Yeah, the sun is up now and we're getting a look at the damage left behind. In fact, we have a live look for you right into Tampa. And look at this. It's hard to believe that just a few hours ago, a Category 3 storm came roaring through, but the sun is out and things are looking much nicer. Milton is still a Category 1 storm, but it is now on the Atlantic side, pushing its way farther to the east. But this hurricane really dumped a ton of rain, saturated the state as many areas face flooding concerns this morning. In Fort Myers, you can see the impact of the storm surge, which left the city partially underwater. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis says Hurricane Milton was significant, but not the worst case scenario.
And then we have this right here. Take a look. A falling tree hits a car in Tampa as the hurricane blew through, and you can see just kind of snapped in half there to the left side of that house in the front yard. So it was very strong storms moving through. The Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office sharing the video and says the people in the car, they were not hurt. And then just in, we have this new video of the Tropicana Field in Tampa. You can see some of the raindrops here on the lens, and what a mess left behind. This is now missing its roof after winds from Milton ripped it off overnight. The ballpark for the Tampa Bay Rays and first responders are using the stadium as a staging area. They were sleeping on cots while they waited out the storm. Fortunately, no injuries were reported. Officials just giving us an update moments ago, sharing what some of the first responders will be doing this morning. Take a listen.
We have 20-something urban search and rescue teams that will move into the area and do a door-by-door search. Even though, as you heard the governor say, this was not the worst-case scenario, we still had damage. And we're going to need to get out there and go door-to-door and make sure that everyone is okay.
Let's take a look right now at what is left of Milton. It is still a Category 1 storm. As you see, it is churning off of the Atlantic coast there on the eastern side of Florida this morning. But you can still see that those rain bands still impacting some portions of Florida. Now, it came on shore yesterday as a Category 3 storm with 120-mile-an-hour sustained winds. Because of this hurricane, there was dozens of tornadoes that were spawned as well. Now, it came on shore right near the Siesta Key area, and then exited right near Cape Canaveral early this morning. So again, we are tracking the very latest from Milton. At this hour, over 3 million people without power. So it's been kind of hard to check in with some of those areas that have been the hardest hit just because the power's down, internet's down obviously, and these crews are now having to go door to door to make sure that everybody is okay. We're gonna have much more from Florida. In fact, we have a live report from Fox's Connor Hansen in just a few minutes from now.
All right, Battleground Arizona, our 11 electoral votes are up for grabs in the race for the White House. And with early voting now underway, the Copper State, big point of focus for the Trump and Harris campaigns.
And what is expected to be a tight presidential race, the candidates are making stops in Arizona starting today. Some big names here. Vice President Kamala Harris will be in Chandler. The Democratic presidential candidate is holding a rally there tonight. The exact details about the rally have not been released just yet, but as soon as we get those very late breaking details, we'll post them for you.
Happening this weekend, former President Donald Trump will be back in Arizona. The GOP presidential nominee is set to host a campaign rally in Prescott Valley on Sunday. It will be at 2 p.m. in the afternoon at the Findlay Toyota Center. Doors open at 10 a.m. And as we wait these presidential candidate visits, their running mates both made stops here yesterday.
Republican Ohio Senator J.D. Vance and Democratic Minnesota Governor Tim Walz both campaigning across Arizona yesterday. Vance started in Tucson talking about the border. The GOP vice presidential nominee then took part in a CPAC town hall in Mesa. In the meantime, Tim Walz took part in an event for veterans and their families and met with tribal leaders in the valley before the Democratic vice presidential nominee headed to Tucson for a rally there. Both candidates taking swipes at the other side. Take a listen.
Kamala Harris supported the policies that shut down American oil and natural gas, shut down pipelines, and that drove the cost of energy about 45% higher for Arizona families.
But our allies don't believe they can trust the former president. They don't believe that we will stand for it.
So both candidates encourage voters to get their ballots in now that voting is open in the Grand Canyon state. The race is expected to remain close here. In 2020, President Biden beat Donald Trump in Arizona by a little more than 10,000 votes. Most polls are showing that President Trump has a slight lead here in our state.
All of these big visits coming as the candidates in one of the most closely watched Senate races in the country go head to head.
Yeah, Ron has more from last night's debate between Republican Kari Lake and Democrat Ruben Gallego. Hey, Ron.
Yeah, so they covered a wide range of topics over the course of that hour, but two of the biggest, including abortion and the border. We'll start with what both had to say about what's been going on at the border.
And right now, we know that we have terrorists that are coming through. We're worried about a potential terrorist attack on our home soil.
And I have voted for border walls in the past, and actually hundreds of miles with the border walls, because where appropriate, with the proper manpower and staffing, it does work. What doesn't work is when you put a border wall without the manpower and without the actual laws that you need to implement behind it.
Meanwhile, the topic of abortion. Lake and Gallego disagreed on whether it should be federal law or left up to individual states.
Would codify Roe. Okay. It is absolutely abhorrent that my 15-month-old daughter has less rights and control of her body than her mother and then her grandma.
We have the choice as Arizonans to decide what our abortion law will be. It's going to be up to us, and we're going to decide in November when we go and cast our ballot.
After the debate, each candidate was then given 15 minutes with the media. Gallego did take a few questions, although we did not see Lake after the debate. But her team does say they felt she won the debate last night, and she is planning a news conference today in Scottsdale. She'll also be voting at an in-person early voting center. So, of course, we're following the presidential race closely, you guys. Interesting to follow this Senate race as well.
Ron, thank you.
Sure. Well, last night's debate coming after a new poll from AARP showed more Arizonans are still undecided in the Senate race between Kari Lake and Ruben Gallego. The poll has Gallego leading Lake 51 to 44%, with 4% of those voters still saying that they are undecided.
So will the candidates' debate performance sway voters? Joining us now this morning, the founder of Copper State Consulting, Stan Barnes. Stan, it's good to see you, my friend.
Good to be here with both of you.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Key takeaways maybe from the debate.
Yeah, Ron did a good job on the substance. Let me give you the politics,
Yeah.
right? I don't think any voter who was already for Lake or already for Gallego has changed their mind. I don't think any voter that watched it was really unsure had anything to cling on to. So what matters is, did Kari do enough to get away from second place in the polls? Mm-hmm. And I think she probably didn't. They both had their moments. Kari did very well. She's an experienced, smooth person on television. And that came out. And in fact, Ruben Gallego did not look like an experienced, smooth person. I think he looked very nervous and started very nervous. But Kari is, that's a set made for her. And so she poised and did well. On immigration, she was substantively well. I thought she won that round, if you will. Mm-hmm. On abortion, I think they kind of pushed. She had some strong statements about how she was not going to support a national ban, which was news for a lot of people, and that was interesting and substantive. But on the other stuff, in fact, it felt like the whole debate was immigration and abortion. But there was a third thing, and that was kind of like a pile of everything else, the economy and things like that. Ruben Gallego did real well on making her uncomfortable about the fact that she still believes she should be the governor and thinks she is the legitimate governor and is still contesting the 2022 election. I think that's political kryptonite for Kari Lake in a very difficult spot. So a mixed bag all the way around. I don't think it's going to change any minds.
Why do you say that that's the kryptonite, that specific kind of?
Yeah, I mean, because we've never seen it before as Arizona voters. We've never experienced that moment where the person that lost the last race will not concede that and is litigating that and wears a crown of I really should be the governor and the governor that's there is not legitimate. That just feels like a whole separate universe of crazy. And most Arizonans want to just move forward, and most Arizonans trust the election system to yield the outcome. So I think it feels like something she cannot overcome with a number of voters, enough to make a difference. One reason she's running second in the polls.
You know, as we look kind of big picture, when we look nationwide, this has a bigger consequence, bigger implications when we look at who controls the Senate potentially, right?
Yeah, it does. In fact, that was my third point for you. This is a very serious matter. So the United States Senate, the world's most exclusive club, one of 100 people in that seat that will decide some major things. I thought the moderators deserved a little demerit because they did their best to control the timing, even though Kari kept interrupting. But what they didn't do is talk about things other than abortion and immigration, really.
Right.
I mean, where was the question about Ukraine? Where was it about the Middle East? Where was the question about the national debt? Well, there were so many powerful issues that were left off the table. We spent all the time on immigration and abortion and a little bit about the economy and a mixed bag of things. I thought it could have been better,
And
really.
the Senate will vote on a lot of those issues as we look forward.
The U.S. Senate is the most powerful deliberative body on planet Earth, and it is hard to exaggerate how important it is to be a U.S. Senator. And we didn't get to those kinds of meaty issues. I'd like to have seen them talk about those kind of things. I get it where they are in immigration. I get it where they are in abortion. We don't need to rehash all that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some of these other meaningful things. That did not come out. Detriment to the both of those people who ran the debate, I like personally. But I think they missed the ball when it comes to the substance we should have had.
Okay. All right, let's talk real quick about national politics. This week, we have seen so many of candidates on both sides coming right here to Arizona. What does that say about Arizona still being that battleground state?
It says that it's not only my opinion, it's the opinion of the consultants that are running the presidential campaigns, no doubt. Everyone believes that the path to the presidency goes through a handful of states. We're one of them. And we really could go this way or that way for the presidency. Really for the U.S. Senate, but really for the presidency is what it's all about.